Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are watching this video, let me welcome you all to our channel Future Endeavors. Okay, so it has been a long time. We have not been able to post some videos. Sorry for that. There have been some issues. Okay, so just let us quickly move on to our topic of discussion today. We have been giving some of the videos where we have been solving the numerical problems in our channel. Okay, so today we will be directly moving on to the next chapter, which is the laws of motion. We have been discussing the chapters of physics from class 9 syllabus ICSE. Okay, so today we are going to study about the third chapter, that is the laws of motion. We have already studied about the first chapter where we have discussed about the SI units. Okay, various types of physical quantities. What is physical quantity? What are the types? Then in the second chapter we have discussed about scalar and vector. We have also discussed about motion in one dimension, rest, motion, all these things, acceleration. So today we are going in the previous chapter, that is in the second chapter, we have only discussed about the motion. We have not considered or thought anything about what is the cause behind that motion, isn't it? Here actually in this chapter we will be dealing with the factors that is responsible for the motion, or that is responsible for the change in state of the rest or state of motion of a body. Okay, so with that let us begin our chapter. So write down the heading, laws of motion. So name of the chapter is laws of motion. Okay, so basically before jumping on to the laws of motion, we will be briefly discussing about force. What is force? What are its effects? What are its types? We will be discussing about those. Okay, so first of all let us consider what is force. Okay, so you are all familiar with this term force, but what is it actually? Okay, so can you think that any change which is being brought about, it is due to the factor which is written on the board, isn't it? Think of that you are there is a box lying on the ground. You give it a force, you push it. It may be push, it may be pull. The box changes its position, not by itself, but due to the application of this factor, which is called force. So basically we can say that force is a cause. Okay, so you can say that force is a cause that changes the state of an object, of an body. Okay, it may be living, non-living, anything. So basically we can say that force is a cause. So it's a cause that can bring about a change in the state of a body. State. What do you mean by this term? State. Okay. So by this term state you can mean it can be state of rest or state of motion. Okay. It can be the shape, it can be the size, anything. So basically the state of the object is changed by this factor called force. Okay. So very simple terms we can say that force is a push or pull. Okay, so in other terms you can also refer this as a push or pull that is causing a change in the state of the object. You can imagine it, that just think of the major forces that are being applied. They are either in the form of a push or a pull. A table is present at the corner of your room. You want to move it from that corner to other corner. What do you do? Either you pull it or you push it. So basically it's in simple terms it can be said that it's a push or pull that is causing a change in the state of the object, of the body. Okay, fine. So this is the basic definition that you can give about a force. Now next thing that we will be discussing about, so what are the effects of this force? Okay, can you think of what are the effects of force? Okay, so just think about some practical situations where you are applying a force on any object, and what are the possible changes that can be seen, okay, that can be observed. Just think of it practically, it will be more helpful for you to understand the topic. Okay, so next is what we are going to discuss is the effects of force. Okay, so what are the effects of force? First one is that it can change the state of rest or state of motion of a body. So first effect is can change the state of rest or even motion, okay, of a body. So just imagine that you sit on a cycle and you want to move the cycle. So what do? You apply a force on the pedals of the cycle with the help of your leg. That's the kind of force that you are applying, and due to that the wheels of the cycle starts rotating. As a result, the cycle starts moving. So the cycle was initially at rest. Now when you are applying the force, the cycle starts moving, isn't it? So it can cause an object which is at rest to get into motion. On the other hand, it can be also in the other side. Say a footballer kicks a football, okay, so when he or she kicks the football, what is done? A force is being applied through the legs, okay. The ball which was at rest on the ground starts moving with a certain velocity, certain speed. Now the goalkeeper standing at the goal, what does he or she do? With the hands they actually apply a force in the opposite direction, which is in the direction opposite to the motion of the football, okay, and applying the force with his hands, with his or her hands, that person can actually stop the football. So here the reverse thing is happening, that the football was in motion, it is brought to rest applying a force. So a force can cause both change in state of rest or state of motion. Okay. Second is what? Second point, you can say that a force can also change the direction of motion without causing any change in the state of rest or of motion. It can cause change in the direction of motion. This is another change that can be brought about by the force, can change the direction of motion. Say another example we can give, again the example of a cycle. You are riding a bicycle, okay, and you are going in the say north direction, you want to go in the now after going a certain distance in the north, you want to move towards the east. What do? You apply a force with your hands on the handles of the cycle, okay, you turn it and it can cause a change in the direction of the motion. So now the cycle starts moving in the east direction, isn't it? So force can also cause a change in the direction of motion of an object. Okay. Third point, what it can do? Can change the shape or size of a body. Okay, so a force can also cause a change in the shape or size of the body. This is also possible. Say you have a lump of clay, soft clay. You apply force with your hand, you can give it any shape, isn't it? So obviously with the application of force, you can cause a change in the shape or size of the object. You can also change the size. Say the soft clay, it has pores in its structures. You can apply force and just reduce its size, isn't it? So definitely by applying force we can change this shape, that is very much obvious. We can also to some extent or in some cases can change the size of the object, size of the body. Okay, so broadly discussing, we can see that the force that we are applying can cause these three types of changes in a body. Okay, Now, next thing that we are going to discuss is what are the kinds of force, what are the types of force. Okay, so let us see what are the types of force. First, we will be discussing the types of force that exist in the nature. Then we will be discussing about the types of force based on the contact. Okay, whether the two bodies are in contact or not, based on that you can also classify force. So first we will discuss what are the types of force existing in nature. Types of force in nature. You can just look around yourself and see what are the types of force in nature. Okay. First of all, we will be discussing the first force that you can very commonly see around you is the gravitational force, isn't it? Gravitational force. Okay, so this is the force that exists due to the property of matter called mass. So basically gravitational force always exists where there is mass, because any mass has this property of attracting other mass, and this force with which a mass can attract another mass is called the gravitational force. Okay, definitely the chair, table or anything in your room can attract each other, but you do not see any movement in these chairs or tables. Why this is so? This is because actually we will discuss about the gravitational force in details in a later part of this chapter. Basically the gravitational force, the value of this gravitational force is actually very small if the masses that you are considering are small. So okay, so the mass of the table or chair is very less. Okay, so basically the force that is acting between the table or chairs is very less. Now remember one thing, this gravitational force can exist between any matter, maybe it living or non-living. So this is gravitational force. Okay, so we will be discussing this in details in the later part. Okay, so the second kind of force that we are seeing is the electromagnetic force. Okay, so electromagnetic force. Under this electromagnetic force, basically there are two types of forces. Electromagnetic force, there are two types. One is the magnetic force that you can see, magnetic force, and second is the electric force. Okay, electric force. What is magnetic force? You know, magnets can attract each other, can attract iron like objects. So definitely these are called the magnetic forces. Now magnetic forces can actually exist in both repulsive as well as attractive form. Okay, on the other hand, electric forces, you know, when you comb your dry hair, you have shampooed your hair and dried it, and when you comb it, see the comb can attract small pieces of paper, isn't it? So basically that kind of force is called the electric force. We will be discussing this in details in the later classes. In the last part of the class time we will be discussing about the magnetic forces. Okay, so these are the electromagnetic forces. Now they are very much interrelated to each other, so they are combinedly called electromagnetic forces. Okay, fine. The third kind and fourth kind of force that we can exist in nature is the weak nuclear force. We do not have any mention in our syllabus about these forces, weak nuclear force, so we will not be discussing in these details, but just to let you know. And there is strong nuclear force. Maybe in some later class, if we get chance, we will discuss about these forces, strong nuclear force. So these are the four kind of forces that actually exist in our nature, in the nature. So with this we will be coming to an end to our lecture here. On the next lecture we will be discussing about the contact and non-contact force. Please till then study well, and if you have any query, mention in the comment box. Till then, thank you.